Alright, so in today's video we are going to be covering word order of sentences, and this is going along with the grammar in stage 1 of the Red Book. If you want to follow along, some of the examples will be on page 8, and I'll have some other examples. So Latin sentences are both similar and dissimilar to English sentences. There's kind of two categories we have right now. Right? There's sentences with the verb est, and then sentences with action verbs like dormit, laborat, etc. Those action verbs that we saw. All right, and so these sentences, these categories give us two different word orders. When you have an est and all the forms that come with est, the sentence is very similar to English, okay? So we had as an example in part A on page 8, Metella est mater. And it translates, Metella is the mother. All right, so this word order is very similar to what you see in English. You could have a sentence like this. Davus est service. And so if you were to translate this, knowing that Davus is a name, it would translate as good, exactly. Davus is the slave. You could also have Cornelius est pater. Right? So pater is one of our new vocab words, meaning father, good. And so Cornelius is the father. Alright, and so these sentences, the English and the Latin, match up pretty nicely. Alright, when you have these action verbs though, it changes a little. Alright, typically these verbs, these verbs like to be at the end of a Latin sentence. So, for example, canis in via dormit. So canis in via dormit. If we were to do a Latin word to English word, it would read a dog in the road sleeps. And that doesn't really make sense in English. We have to remember to flip it around and say a dog sleeps in the road. Alright, so some other examples, we could have Davus in horto laborat. So Davus, so if we did the one-to-one, it would be Davus in the garden works. But again, that doesn't sound right, so we have to modify it when we translate it into English. So Davus works in the garden. Alright? Now remember though, the Romans didn't translate anything that they were reading. Alright? The Romans would just read this sentence, Davus in horto laborat. And so when you're reading Latin, you want to make sure that you're reading it in the correct word order and not jumping around. You want to read from left to right. Alright? So you want to read Davus in horto laborat. And it's only when someone asks you to translate it that you have to kind of modify this stuff. But if you can understand what is happening in this sentence, quis laborat in horto, if you can answer that question without translating it, then you're perfectly fine. It's just when we're translating it that things get kind of funky. All right? Now notice though, Notice in all of these sentences, we've had to add extra words. So in the Latin, there's 1, 2, 3. In the English, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What are those extra words that we're adding? Exactly. We've added the and we've added a. And that's because Latin doesn't have that in their vocabulary. They do not have a word for a, they do not have a word for the. Instead, they just don't use that, all right? So metella est mater can mean metella is the mother, metella is a mother, or metella is mother. All of those are acceptable translations in English. It's when we translate, again, not when we read Latin, but when we translate Latin, that we have to add in thes and us to have the sentences make sense. Otherwise it will just sound silly in the English. But that's only when we translate, not when we're reading Latin. When we're reading Latin, metella est mater. Boom, done, that's it. All right? So those are a couple of things that we want to remember about word order in Latin sentences. All right? Because remember, Latin is a foreign language, and we're studying it, and we're learning about how this foreign language works. So it's not going to be 100% like English. All right? If you have any questions, feel free to email me, put them in the comments section, or ask them in class next time.